Call the Board of Works to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and face the east. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nina, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Lynch?
Here.
Member Collins?
Here.
Member Lewis?
Here.
Member Williams?
Here.
Member Young Johnson?
Here. We have the approval of the minutes from January 25th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from January 25th. I second.
I'm sorry, are these the minutes from February 8th, though?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, I apologize.
I'm sorry.
It is.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 8th meeting.
Again, I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. New business, we have special request, Emily Carpenter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Emily Carpenter. I'm the youth facilitator and outreach specialist for the Tobacco Education and Prevention Coalition for Porter County. And I work almost exclusively with the schools and teens with our youth program. And on April 1st, there's a day, a nationwide campaign called Take Down Tobacco Day. And our teens would like to have like what I would like to call like an educational fair. So they want to set up different like tables and talk to their youth, their fellow youth and other community members about the dangers of tobacco and nicotine use. And we would like to use Founders Square. And I've never been here before, so if I guess you have questions.
So your arrival is at 3 o'clock. Are you gonna be up on the stage and you're gonna need a PA system? Do you have?
So we personally have a projector screen, a speaker, and we have some tables. So I think that we really don't need anything else. As long as there's like electricity, which I know, I used to live in those apartments, so I know that there's that stuff already there.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
So the public obviously is invited to this?
Yes.
Okay. And the students will be manning the booths. Just talk a little bit about the logistics, how that's going to happen.
Yeah, so I met with them last week, and what they decided they wanted to do, since the program is really them driven,
Yes.
I'm just here to help them with like this part. They want to, each of them, I have 4 teams that are active in our core team, and they each want to take an activity and set it up so that people from the community can come to each station and learn something new about smoking or tobacco, maybe do an activity of writing postcards to legislators, and then we would mail them, but they haven't decided exactly what activities they want to do, but it's small things like that at each station. One of them's really involved in theater and they want to put on a skit maybe, so stuff like that. It's just dependent on what they want to do, but it's like small individual things they each want to do.
Are you planning on setting up any tents?
Like maybe some canopies. I guess it depends on what the weather is.
So you have to be careful because where you put those tents, there's an underground watering system there and you can't put stakes in there.
Oh yeah. Sure.
You could put like ropes and then, you know, like jugs of water or something like that to hold your tent.
Yeah, I don't know
on.
where my stakes are. I just use like heavy bags in the corners, so that's fine.
You might want to just check with the parks before you would put something like that up.
Perfect.
Are there any other questions?
I did have a question.
Sure.
You have expected number of participants, like 50 or plus, and so is that including the team of teens that you have, including however many people you advertise to, that you expect to show, or?
Yes, I figured, well, we've had a lot of low attendance with things probably because of COVID, so I'm not sure how April's gonna go. But we have 4 teens that are each gonna bring a person, and then I would be hopeful that maybe like a couple class, you know, sizes, like 50 or so, like a couple classes would show up like to participate. But I have no idea because we haven't done it before. It's like newer, you know, for this area to put on something like that. And also everything's so unpredictable right now. So I really don't, I was hoping at least 50 people would show up. That would be cool. If 10 people showed up, I'd be happy. So
Okay.
I'm just not sure.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Tobacco Education and Prevention Coalition Ed Fair, as it's been phrased, for April 1st from 3 to 5 at Founders Square.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Scott, seconded by Joetta. Are there any further questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Thanks. If I get an update on numbers, I can just let you guys know. Yeah, is that okay? Do
Just
I
let
need
the
to let
park
you know?
know.
The parks know? Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
We have another special request by Daniel Rupert. Looking for that to open up for a walking, running event using an out and back course design at Imagination Glen. This looks like this would be on July 11th. I don't see anyone in attendance, so we'll probably need a motion to table this.
Make a motion to table Daniel Ruckert's request for a walking, running event. Hopefully he can come before the board prior to that event to answer any questions and seek approval.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Scott, seconded by Joetta to table the event at IG. Are there any further questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Permission to advertise for a 2022 crack ceiling project.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members. Yes, the Department of Planning and Community Development seeking your permission to advertise for 2022 crack sealing. The streets that would be proposed for crack sealing, again, this would be the first step of preventative maintenance to preserve the pavement sections for as long as possible. Will include Willow Creek Road between US Highway 6 and the Toll Road Bridge, Chrisman Road from US Highway 20 to south of Old Porter, Samuelson Road between Portage Avenue and Central Avenue between Hamstrom and Scott, Hamstrom between Main and Defiance, and Airport between Central and Turtle Creek, which is approximately 300 feet south of Central. For crack sealing, this is that initial part of preventative maintenance. A pavement is laid, a year or two, you begin to already see cracks in the asphalt. The crack sealing prevents water from entering into those cracks and ultimately leading to a failure of that surface. A very important first step, and we believe it's very important for the preservation of our pavement. I have had a chance to speak with Clerk Treasurer Rivas. There are funds available in motor vehicle highway restricted, so we would like to ask for your permission to advertise for crack sealing for 2022. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the permission to advertise for the 2022 crack ceiling project. Let AJ go out for bids.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Jamie, seconded by Joetta to approve the permission to advertise for crack sealing. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All. Any opposed? If not, motion carries.
Thank you.
Are you still up on this one?
I am not. There
Woodland
is
sidewalk and curb?
Yes, ma'am. There's a representative from the engineering firm here to speak
Okay.
on behalf of these two petitions.
Okay. You may come to the mic.
Good morning, Casey Richards with Great Lakes Engineering, here to discuss the waiver for the Woodland subdivision, which is located at the northeast corner of Portage Avenue and Chrisman Road. We are planning to build what is on the plat that was approved by the Plan Commission. I'm happy to take questions.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
On this waiver. It says, item number 2 says $13,204.40, and then up at the top, it says $13,000, so what is the amount?
There's two
One
separate.
sidewalks, one's curbs.
One sidewalks, one curbs,
Yeah,
okay,
and I think they're
sorry.
looking for a waiver on both.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Oh, yes.
So I guess my question would be, is this a subdivision that's gonna have homes,
Yes.
but it won't have curbs or sidewalks?
So internally, the subdivision will have curbs and sidewalks. It's just on the perimeter of Portage Ave, the frontage of Portage Avenue, and then a little bit of Chrisman Road is where it fronts.
All right, so you're saying along Portage Avenue, there'll be no curbs or sidewalks there? That's what you're
Correct,
saying?
which is what is there now.
So I wanted AJ to weigh in on this because I don't want to get down the road and then people come before us wanting sidewalks and curbs, and we have agreed to this waiver. So could you explain that to us, AJ, please? Thank you.
Yes, the Woodland subdivision was presented a number of months ago to the Plan Commission. Their approval of primary plat, one of the contingencies is a curb and sidewalk waiver by this board. The proposed subdivision, 14, 15 lots maybe, 16, 16 single-family homes at the northeast corner of Chrisman and Portage Avenue. It's the developer's right to be here to make the request of waiver. The Plan Commission didn't consider that because this has ultimately been given to this board for review. But yes, this is a subdivision, a new subdivision in town that would be very close to the trailhead of the Iron Horse Trail at Chrisman and Portage Avenue. I would imagine that those people would like to have access, to that trailhead location. I think, in a lot of cases with the curbs, you notice like when we were on McCool Road or Hamstrom Road, when infrastructure isn't in that area, we usually just install a ribbon curb so as to not disrupt the flow of water off the road. So yeah, it's a tough one, a decision to make. But yes, there will be 16 new homes built there. We have some additional streets, Stormy, Monument, that could use this sort of infrastructure to get to that location at this intersection.
Are there currently sidewalks on that side of Portage Avenue?
No, because previously to this subdivision, it was woods.
Well, right, but I mean on the other side of that.
No, not in this area. But we'd have to start somewhere.
The curbs, where does the water go?
It sheet drains
That's the
off
purpose
the
of the
road
curb,
into
right?
a swale on the north side of the road. And again, the developer didn't account for the stormwater on the road because they were here seeking a curb and sidewalk waiver. So the assumption is that the water is going to sheet drain off Portage Avenue, off Chrisman Road, into the swale. And if you've been out there, you see what it's starting to look like.
So when it came up with the plan commission, did they say why they don't want to put sidewalks?
The Plan Commission, I'll defer to this gentleman.
Yeah, that's a kind of a main couple of roads. Why don't they want to put sidewalks?
So, my understanding of a curb and sidewalk waiver is there's not the infrastructure in place now. This money would go towards that. So in the event that you want to install a sidewalk down that whole section, it would be done by the city.
Yeah, that's the theory. It doesn't usually, it doesn't always go that way. It just seems odd that you would come in with a subdivision, or they would come up with a subdivision and not want to put a walking area along a couple of main roads. It seems kind of strange to me.
As you turn north and make that turn onto Chrisman Road, there's a building there. It was a commercial building.
Right. So there's 2 lots and then that commercial building. Go ahead.
And there are no sidewalks at all on Chrisman,
No.
on the east side or west side.
How about curbs?
No.
I don't think so.
There's the stormwater infrastructure was put in place. It's 1,000 feet to the north there that runs down into our parcel. I think
It's a
there's
big
10 feet
stormwater
of
drain, yeah.
curb probably there to direct that.
And then AJ, if people wanted to put a sidewalk in front of their house, then they would be responsible for doing it? And then you might have a sidewalk here and 3 houses down?
No, it'll be the responsibility of the public at a future date. This is the opportunity to get the
That's what I'm
sidewalks
saying.
put in.
They would have to do it?
Yeah, and there's probably some nuance to this. Again, this wasn't a negotiation. The developer came to the Plan Commission fully understanding that they come to the Board of Works for a curb and sidewalk waiver. So the department, the Planning Commission, doesn't get into design. That's their right to come to this board. There's good and bads with us not having input into design. With that said, there's probably a middle ground to find. There aren't roads built on Crispin, or sidewalks built on Crispin Road. That was a city project. The city of Portage made a decision not to install those sidewalks when the Crispin Road construction project took place a number of years ago. With that said, there's a 16 lot new subdivision that it, you know, at least could get access along Portage Avenue, the intersection of Portage and Crispin Road. We own the property at the northwest corner, so it wouldn't take a lot to create the appropriate pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Portage Avenue and Crispin Road to first help the 16 folks that are gonna move into Portage at this new subdivision, and that allows us to be one step closer as we continue to connect folks further down Portage Avenue. On the curb side, you know, our strategy with installing ribbon curbs is it establishes and it creates a defined edge of pavement so that in the future we come back and that is there. With that said, Portage Avenue is in all likelihood, if we're successful receiving community crossing matching grant this year and next year, will be paved next year. So for the curbs, there may be a reason to grant the waiver that curb money gets put into that account, and that could go to help with the paving project for Portage Avenue that we would be proposing in 2023. The sidewalks, on the other hand, I think it's sort of a different question. There's financial reasons why the developer's proposing not to put in the sidewalk, and so, yeah.
But personally, I need a little more time on this one to maybe ask some more further questions and think about this and the downsides, the pros and cons. I don't know, you know, if we wait to the next meeting, what is that going to do to the developer?
You mean 2 weeks from now?
Mm-hmm.
That should not affect us.
So I make a motion to table this to the next Board of Works meeting on both the requests for curbs and sidewalks. I just want to get into the weeds a little bit more on this one and get some more information.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Scott, seconded by Joetta, to table the Woodland sidewalk and curb waiver to the next Board of Works meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any more information that I could provide to you?
Not offhand right here,
Okay.
but, you know, why don't you give me your number?
Yeah.
Or I can get it. You don't have to announce it publicly. I mean, it's up to you. If you feel
I guess I have
comfortable.
one last question, just make sure we're clear. So, it's like the mayor, you're concerned that there might be some lots that would have a sidewalk and some that wouldn't. But I thought you said the subdivision will have sidewalks. We're talking about Portage Avenue.
Just Portage
And Crispin.
Avenue.
And
So,
Crispin Road, correct?
Crispin Road, yes, but
That corner.
that corner, and then there's I think a 20-foot easement area that is our property that would also require a waiver.
If you feel comfortable giving
Yeah,
it.
we're a business, that's fine.
Sure.
762-3559.
Thank you, Casey.
You're welcome.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Scott, I would suggest that you talk to AJ and Sandy about this.
I will, yeah.
We have bulk item appeals. Are there any bulk item appeals? I don't see Randy here, so there mustn't be. We have the claims. Did everybody get a chance to look at the claims? If so, were there any questions on the claims?
I do have one, because I was, the Retrieve X I know we've talked about this. Actually, we've talked about it 26 times.
Yes.
Which means we've probably paid 26 times $2,000 a month. So we paid $50,000. Do we know what's there?
So after our last meeting, I reached out, as I said I would, to Proven IT, and they kind of brought the conversation back up and asked them to, now that everything sort of is in place, that they wanted to get in place, to dig in a little deeper. Then they said they would do that, so they're in the process of doing that. It's two things. It's hard copies stored somewhere, I think in Illinois. And then they're
But at
not
this
so
point,
concerned.
what would we need
So
that's there?
all right, so there's two different things. So this, I'm going back a bit here, but the hard copies, some of those are, almost all of those, frankly, are from the building department. And if we turn back the hands of time here about a year, when I met with Doug Sweeney, I said, how many of these documents are foreversies where you have to hang on to them forever? And he said, quite a few. And I asked him, so what do you think they're storing? And he said, probably some pretty archived documents, probably quite a few. And at that time, I learned that originally, way back when, those hard copies were stored in town here somewhere. But since then, because of the way this business is, RetrieveX has sort of morphed, they're now somewhere in Illinois. So.
But how do we pay somebody and not know where they have our stuff?
So I think the building department did know. They were advised that they were moved to Illinois. So I think that Doug Sweeney did know where they were at. But that's not the biggest. The biggest cost of this whole situation, I am told by Proven and the conversation the mayor and I had with RetrieveX about a year and a half ago, or a year ago. A big cost of this, or maybe the biggest cost, was the virtual storage. And that's why we needed Proven IT to sort of get in and do an assessment of that. And that's what they're doing. So that's it.
And that's what we're paying for? We're gonna do that?
Mrs.
So
Rivas?
no, so Proven was just doing that as part of, because the question was, is this something that what Proven is doing for us can sort of take up? Are we double servicing here? And so they wanted to get their stuff in place, which they've done, and then take a deeper dive as to what exactly RetrieveX is storing for us virtually. So we're not really paying Proven to do that right now, my understanding. We're still paying RetrieveX for the virtual storage and the hard copy storage.
But I guess
So-
my thing is, if we need it, if it's something we have to have, if he needed it yesterday, we don't know where it is, we can't get it. So what are we paying for?
So that's not necessarily accurate. So we do know where it is. I just don't happen to have the address in my brain. But it's somewhere in Illinois. The building department knows where it's at. They know where they can drive to get access.
How many times in the last 2 years have we had to go there to get something?
I'm not the building department, I don't know.
I'm just asking.
They're probably still,
No,
listen, Jim,
it's-
If somebody doesn't ask this stuff,
They're
it's
so-
$2,000 a month.
they're so,
What do you
a lot of
That's
that,
$50 grand. We
Okay,
can
hold on.
hire somebody for
a
that.
lot of that is virtual storage, but again, I think some of those, at least from my conversation with the building department, some of those hard copy storages are things that they have to store forever that we may never need. They're so old, we may never need them. But that was at least their assessment of the situation when Member Williams first brought it up.
I have a question, Mrs. Rivas. Do we get a monthly invoice from them? Is there an address on that monthly invoice? All right. So your office could provide that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm gonna get the address.
AJ wants.
I'm going there.
So there was a question. I agree with Attorney Whitten. There are certain files statutorily that the city of Portage is records that the city of Portage is obligated to keep. Have we been there in the last 2 years? Not to my knowledge. The virtual storage, the cloud that we're using with RetrieveX is storing our street files. These are all the files that we used to store in the building that had hard copy files and everything on every address in the city of Portage. The building department uses the street file system via this RetrieveX. We do as the planning department.
So we are getting something.
We absolutely on a daily basis use this cloud-based storage for the purposes of the day-to-day business in the city of Portage, both building department, planning department. So we're paying, I believe what we're paying for is that it's in the cloud. It's somewhere on somebody's server that we can gain access to this information. I don't know if it's been money ill spent. I think that the question now raised to Proven is one of, can you do it for us at a cheaper price, right? But I can tell you that the building department, the planning department does know what is being paid to do. It is unfortunate because yes, it was originally stored at a building out in Ameriplex when we went to begin to digitize our records. As many of the records that were able to be digitized were, however, hard copies were still required in certain cases. So we do know that we are gaining access to our street files via the cloud, and that we are, and I believe that the physical storage of the hard copies is a much lesser cost versus the lion's share of the invoice.
And so in my initial conversations with Proven, the folks from Proven, there were two questions. One is obviously what AJ just said, can you do it cheaper? But then they raised the question of, well, maybe you're paying to a certain degree for a duplication of services. The concern with just pulling the trigger and dropping the hammer back then was what AJ just alluded to, and that's we wanted to make sure Proven was fully functioning and in place before we pulled the switch with RetrieveX, because we didn't want there to be any time here where we didn't have access to the virtual stuff. The hard copy stuff's easy. We just need to get our remodeling done. If we have a storage here, we want to put hard files, fine. I don't know how many hard files are out there, frankly, because I've not driven out there, but that's not the biggest cost here. The biggest cost is the virtual. It really is, as you would expect. That's sort of the thing now. But I think, so Scott, if your thought is, I want to make contact with RetrieveX, which is a great thought. After our last meeting, my reaching back out to Proven and sort of bringing it back up to their radar. You guys are in, we're getting things rolling now. Can you take another look at this? I would suggest that perhaps that conversation or meeting with RetrieveX include someone from Proven.
Okay.
So let's just, so we don't have, this he said, she said, we just get everybody to the table. Everything's functioning now with Proven that we would need to be functioning for this service. Let's figure out where we're at and what we need. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, and I think my involvement is twofold. One is to do what you said, but also I'd like to physically know where these hard copies are, where they are. Do you know where they are in Illinois, Nate? Do you have, other than the, okay.
So
have you ever had to access any of the hard files, even when they were at
hold on, let me clarify one thing. In our conversation that the mayor and I had way back when with RetrieveX, I don't think, because I said to Doug Sweeney at the time, why don't you go out there and see where, how much we have. He had an idea of what was out there. But I don't think, they have a separate storage facility. I don't think you're gonna find from the invoice where our files are. I think they have it somewhere else. But let me tell you, let me be clear about this. The conversation with RetrieveX originally was, we'll bring them back to you. We don't want them.
Right.
That's not where we're making our money.
Right.
We're making our money on virtual. Just tell us where to bring them.
But there's probably a phone number on that invoice,
Yes,
correct?
there is. There is. So all we need for the hard copies, that's the easy fix.
Right.
We just need where we want to store them, where they're safe. If we have a facility here that we can do it internally, I've asked that question a number of times. That's sort of a moving target. Or is there a cheaper place that we can store them, through some other vendor? They don't care. RetrieveX will bring them back to us on a moment's notice. We just need a place to put them.
Do they break down on the invoice what portion is virtual
Yes.
and what portion is physical?
They do.
Okay.
So AJ, do these documents, the hard copies, do they have to be in a climate-controlled environment because of their age?
I would believe, Mayor, contractually speaking, that we want to preserve our records, not just store them. So I would imagine that if some sort of controlled climate is required, that would be part of the agreement that this city reached with, I think originally it was DRD some 10 years ago.
So when we have documents that we're statutorily required to preserve, the notion is that we're going to preserve them. So that's a great question, Mayor, and the answer is yes. So wherever we put them, it needs to be climate controlled, because the county got itself in a little bit of crosshairs because the documents they were supposed to store in climate controlled areas, they got a little bit loosey-goosey and stored them in facilities the county owned that weren't. And a lot of those documents were candidly destroyed. Luckily, the county had backed those up internally for themselves and had records, but yes, that's the problem. It needs to be.
So I think we can't just go get them
No,
until
I'm
we
not
know what we're
suggesting-
doing. And I really think that Dan needs to work with them and get it. I don't think we should be getting into calling them or that. I think that should be done by.
Yeah, so if we've got a place that, and that's the point, right? So when we talked to them so many moons ago about the hard copies, it was where would they take them into a place that we know will preserve them. We just didn't have a place at the time. So the hope is that there's some other vendor closer that can do it cheaper. But again, Retrievex has absolutely no desire to hang on to our hard copies.
So Dan's correct. Historically speaking, we were talking about renovating the City Hall. We know the work isn't completed at Open Air Pavilion. Those, to me, are the two future available storage solutions for these files. It would be a lot easier if we used one of the rooms out at the Open Air Pavilion, because there's larger spaces and it's really not being used, where City Hall, we're still sort of growing into them. But if we just literally had to go pick up bulk files and bring them back to the city, the best, most immediate opportunity would be the Open Air Pavilion at the west end of the building.
But I think Nina can tell you that was a mess up there too. So
It was, so hopefully we would be a little better keepers of the record than what was previously done.
So Jamie,
great
does
questions,
that
Jamie.
answer your question?
I feel better that we're spending something for the virtual stuff, and we do use it. That's good. And if we can get proven to take that over, all the better. It's just we've talked about it off and on for so long that it's like the first time that we've gotten a breakdown of what we're paying for. And if it's a place to store them, great. I just know, well, you have to statutorily keep stuff, I understand that. We'll never use them.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of that, candidly.
Engineering
And
prints
my
it the same way,
question
the
is-
mill keeps them, and by the time they go to use them, they've built 6 different things there, and the prints aren't good anyway, but they kept them.
My question is, does Proven need to keep them on their system, or can the clerk treasurer's office store them, or is it too large of files? Because I know Nina just got a new server. So do you have capacity? No?
Well, the building department would have to access it, and they don't have access to my server.
Okay.
But we have an AWS server that's in the cloud that has ample storage. The reason that it costs so much, we've talked about this before, is because when the files were scanned in, they were saved as a JPEG. JPEGs take much more data than a PDF. So JPEG, they're not even searchable. There's absolutely no reason that at some point someone could spearhead the project and get the data, export it from Retrievex, and get it into Laserfish. We paid for it already.
So I think that right along that line is what, so when I emailed Emmanuel over at Proven, those are some of the things that I've asked them to sort of dig into now, what our options would be. And I think Nina hits one right on the head there, so.
Well, I think if we could store them ourselves, we're not paying somebody else, and what if somewhere down the road then we didn't do business with Proven? I'm not saying we're not gonna do it, but then now we have to get those files, and so why can't we just get them in
If
our
we
own
have Laserfish, it doesn't matter who we use for IT, we pay for the Laserfish license.
That's right.
We have it.
That's right, it's ours. So let me do a little more digging in the well. I'm happy to share whatever I find out. I'm happy to facilitate a meeting with the stakeholders, and like I said, I reached out to Proven after our last meeting. I'll do a little follow-up with them again to see where they're at, and I'll have a little more info for you at the next meeting.
Appreciate that.
Yep,
Were
thank
there
you.
any other questions on the claims? If not, I'd like a motion to approve the claims.
I'll make a motion, we approve the claims in the amount of $185,712.58.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Jamie, seconded by Joetta. Are there any further questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Major illness claims?
So, Madam Mayor, I believe there were 6 MI claims, I think 2 COVID leaves. There were 1 or 2 that I held back with questions. So I would ask that the board approve the ones that I signed off on.
So there are 6.
I believe there are 6.
That's including the 2 COVID.
Those are extra, so
Extra.
there's 2. Yeah,
So 6 major illness and 2 COVID.
I believe that's it, yes.
I make a motion to approve the 6 major illness claims and the 2 COVID claims.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Joetta, seconded by Scott, on major illness claims. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there any other business to come before this board? I did.
My name is Ted Uselak. I'd like to speak as a citizen of the 3rd District. And if we could rewind a little bit, it's about the sidewalk and curb waiver that was requested earlier. There were some questions about where the curbs and sidewalks are on Portage Avenue. There were also some comments by the developer's representative about there's nothing there now. Well, the reason there's nothing there now is there are no homes there now. There also was a woods there. We all know that the trees that are in that woods contribute to drainage. We also know that that area is a depression that has now, and I drove by it today, I drive by it every day, has been filled in. It looks like the dirt's about this much higher than it originally was. The people in those neighborhoods have had historic drainage problems, which can be confirmed by many of us here that have served our community. And I think the developer's looking to save $26,000 and change at the expense of those people. As a citizen, I would request that you consider not approving that waiver, and that you make the developer be a good neighbor and contribute to the infrastructure of this community. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to come before this board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.